Okay, we're going to call this meeting, call to order this regular meeting of the City of Belen Planning and Zoning Commission, State of New Mexico, County of Valencia, to be held today, Monday, the 29th day of August at 6 p.m. sharp in the City Council Chambers, 100 South Main Street, Belen, New Mexico, 87002. All Planning and Zoning Commission meetings are video and audio recorded. A copy of the agenda may be obtained from the office of the City of Belen Planning and Zoning Department. Mr. T, you call us, roll call us tonight, please.
Commissioner Perry, Commissioner Silva, Commissioner Baca, Commissioner Sanchez. We do have a quorum.
All right, let's all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Oh, yeah, I'm here. Okay, everyone's got an agenda before them this evening. Do we have any changes we need to make to the agenda tonight? No changes to the agenda. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda. Any second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving tonight's agenda, say aye.
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 So we have 3 sets of minutes in front of us. Mr. Tomita, thank you for getting us minutes. May 31st, 2022. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to go through them. Okay. If we're good with the minutes, or if anybody needs to make any changes, I'll accept a motion to accept the May 31st minutes.
I motion to accept the 31st minutes.
Okay.
Second it.
So a motion and a second for the approval of the May 31st, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting hearings minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that passes through there. The June 13th meeting minutes. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
on the third paragraph on the second page, they've misspelled your name.
Shame on them.
You've turned into something they use in pie crust.
Well, we'll have to change that, won't we?
We'll correct that. We apologize for that.
Doggone spell check, huh? Okay. So with the change noted, will anybody else have any issues with the meeting minutes of June 13th? I'm sorry. Accept a motion to accept the minutes?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes of June 13th, 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And we're off to July 25th's approval of minutes. It's good we're getting these things approved.
We're still missing one. There is no recording.
Okay?
So we're just going to have to go back and create what we can.
Okay. Any changes anybody can see for the July 25th meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes from July 25th.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? We have a motion and a second for the July 25th, 2022 minutes of our Planning and Zoning Commission. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, those pass. Good. Okay. Come to the portion of our program where we have public comments. The public comments and observations will be observed at this time. The commission will not take any action or engage in discussions regarding the comments made, but when appropriate, the matters raised may be referred to staff or others for further review. Derogatory comments or matters under litigation will not be allowed, and any person or persons addressing the commission are liable for their own statements, not the commission. Statements are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Would anybody like to get up this evening and talk to the commission about anything? All right, very good. We will close public comment portion of our meeting, and we will move into section 7, discussion with possible action. Variance for temporary single-wide mobile home on an R1 single-family zoned lot. Legal description, subdivision Carmen, ADD D-5-18C, Lot 1, Valencia County, UPC code 10070284552280000. Mr. Tomato, will you enlighten us on this case, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is something that a lot of communities are trying to deal with when you have a family member that needs extra care and the ability to afford that care and what to do to solve that. A lot of communities have come up with where they allow temporary building to be placed in the backyard of a home that allows it to go in there and be placed there and the family member to be taken care of until the situation ends, either by a person recovering or a person passing away. And in this case, where the applicant is living, that's the home is fully occupied. They cannot take in the sick family member, and that family member lives in Albuquerque, so they can't go back and forth. So they needed to be able to bring the family member down here and take care of that family member. So this is the lot you're looking at. It's on Old River Road, next to Burlington Northern's yard. So they're asking, the application was for them to be able to bring in a single wide trailer. Normally, if they brought in a double wide, they'd be able to put it on that lot, but they're not financially able to purchase a double wide trailer and bring it in. So they've applied for a variance to be able to put a single wide mobile home on the lot, which is right behind these trees here. Right back over here. This lot right here. Put a single wide trailer on that until the family member passes away. The variance allows you to claim a hardship condition, which would be physical hardship for the lot, unusual condition for the lot, or an unusual condition that creates a hardship for the owner of that property. And so under that basis, a variance would apply under this condition, this circumstances. Not much really I can add to that. Like I said, it is a health hardship for the family member. I can answer any questions you have. The applicants here that can stand up and further explain the situation, what they're dealing with, and why they're applying for this situation.
One thing that I neglected to do before we started this was to swear anybody in who'll be talking this evening. So whoever will be standing up, giving testimony before us this evening, if you could stand up and we can just swear everybody in. So if you have a case and you're going to be standing up before us. Okay, so everybody raise your hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Real quickly, can you do us a favor and explain how the
Yeah, I was
process
just
works
gonna-
this evening?
I apologize for that. The normal procedure is that the chair will introduce the case that's being heard this evening, and they'll call upon me to come up and give an overview of what the application is, what it's about, anything that the staff may feel need to explain to the commission. The commission will come forth to ask any questions they may have of me, the planning staff, because I do have extra planning staff now, and we'll address those questions. After that, then the chair will allow the applicant to come up and present what they want to add to what I present. They will then ask any questions they may have of the applicant, and then the chair will open the floor for the public. And at that time, that's when the public can come up, anybody out here can come up and state whether they're for it, against it, ask any questions. And then the commission can ask any questions they may have of that. Then the chair will allow the applicant to address any questions or comments. The public will be allowed to come up one more time to ask anything, then the applicant can address that. After that, and the commission can ask questions. After that, the chair will close the floor. Once the chair closes the floor, then there's no more further comments, questions, or anything from the people in the audience here. After that, then the commission will ask any final questions they may have of the applicant or me, and then the chair will then turn to the commission for any final discussion and a motion. Thank you.
Okay. Real quick for you, Mr. Tamita, after talking about this, sewer, water, electric?
It's all there.
All
yes.
there, pretty readily available. And what happens to the variance when conditions change?
The variance is what you will need to impose on it. Like I said, it would be a temporary non-conforming use under the variance. Then the commission can state within the variance conditions such as once the condition goes away, then the variance goes away and the trailer would have to be removed.
Thank you. Anybody from the commission have any more questions for Mr. Tamita? No? Okay. Can we bring the applicant forward, please?
Hello,
Hi. Just tell us your first name and last name, please.
Kayla Montoya.
Thank you, Kayla. Yeah, make sure you're talking directly into the mic. There we go.
Kayla Montoya.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Montoya?
I do. Just a couple. First of all, my sympathy for you being in this position. It's a tough position, I know. You are intending to connect this trailer to all the city services, sewer, water, electric, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Will it be put up on blocks?
Yes, and an XI2 foundation, so a permanent foundation will be placed as well.
Okay, great, great. Okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
What year is the trailer?
1999.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
If a permanent foundation's set up, and it's a temporary variance, I'm confused a little bit.
It's not a concrete slab and such, what you think of as a permanent foundation. It's foundation that the state and HUD requires to properly secure a mobile home and make sure it doesn't blow away and things like that.
Okay.
Rather just stick it up on a few blocks and leave it.
An XI2 system is anchored at opposite corners in two different places. And so it can be considered a permanent foundation, but it can be removed as well without large costs.
That is considered a permanent foundation.
Okay.
Any other questions for our applicant this evening.
Okay, so I did want to ask if, just due to the financial hardship of bringing the house here and the cost of everything, if after the variance is over, because it's going to be my responsibility, if we could leave the mobile home there. I did get a petition signed from the surrounding neighbors and asked them, I let them know the situation, and after the fact of the financial situation, that if we left it there, if that was okay, if anybody had any objections to it, and we did get the majority of the neighbors around to sign. I think there was one.
And excuse me, my name is Brenda Sanchez. The situation is Anita Espinosa, and this is her. She's not a situation, this is a
Oh.
person that
Yep.
is requiring assistance. And that's the way I'd like to have that addressed.
Yes, ma'am.
And we went around and had a bunch of the neighbors, a majority of the neighbors, we have it signed here. They read the petition. We know there's a variance to have to move it 6 months after, whatever the variance is. But this is what we're asking for this, is to be able to put it on permanent foundation, to keep it there for the duration of forever. I mean,
And if anything happens to it, like fire or anything, we would not replace it with another single wide at that time. Then due to the, whatever your regulations are for the double wide in the future, if that's something that happens, then a double wide would be placed there. It would not be replaced with a single wide.
Is there enough room on this piece of property to accommodate? Usually we have an overhead view of what this looks like.
There is, yes, it's a standard lot.
and I wanted to say too, it's not a trailer being parked in someone's backyard. It is a city lot that will be taxed.
Okay.
And they'll pay their taxes, and we expect, the city to take care of their utilities as well.
So
it's not-
there's nothing else on this standard city lot?
No,
This would be
there
the, okay.
Even though it's under variance, and right now we're discussing back and forth whether it stays or goes away, it has to comply with the standard setbacks. 20 feet front, 15 rear, 5 and 5 on the sides. So there's no variance from that.
Okay.
And we actually are setting it at the regulations of the city as well. Everything, the 15 from the back, 20 from the street, and both, 5 feet on both sides, that is how it's gonna be placed as well.
Okay.
There's neighbors that have gone by and seen what's happening there, and it's looking nice. It don't look like that anymore. The weeds next to that double wide, where you can see them, they're not like that now. They're all mowed, because I'm sure people are out there looking at it. Which is good. Sometimes,
Yeah.
neighbors do that. They say, oh, they're working on the yard, we better work on our yard.
Okay. There any other questions from the commission this evening? Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And can we leave this with somebody, this petition, or does it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so there's no other questions, concerns, or anybody here in the commission?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tomita, this is R1?
Yes,
Okay. Mobile homes are not allowed in R1. The variance would be for a specific period of time,
that's
correct?
correct.
I am 100% all in on allowing the variance for the specified need. I'm not sure how I feel about allowing it to go on beyond that, however, because then we are setting a precedent.
That's right.
And I am not one for setting precedents that we can't later recover from. Do you see any alternative to that?
I don't see any, the only other option would be to come back and apply, get the variance through. They could come by and apply for special use. But still, to me, it's still setting a precedent that we're allowing a single-wide mobile home to go on an R1 lot. And there's no way to rezone it to do an R2, because, I mean, a R1A, because there's no R1As around it either.
Spot zoning.
Be spot zoning. So it's, I understand, I mean, it's a big investment to do that, then to have to move that out. But we're already creating, and it's only temporary, a non-conforming use, but it's under variance, typically they go away. But like I said, it would set a precedent, and I don't know how we enforce the zoning after that.
It would be unusual, but it would also, it would be possible to set a time for it to be removed, like 1 year.
Yes. In fact, that's what I was gonna bring up, that needs to be discussed, what would be a reasonable time after the trailer is vacated, that they would be allowed to keep it there and then move it. Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to raise my hand or not. But they had a petition.
You need to turn your.
Oh, sorry. They had a petition that all the neighbors signed that they approved for the trailer to stay? Is that still not okay, or even if it's a petition?
Petition does not allow us to vary from the law.
Okay.
That's the concern is if we do not enforce the law, then we set a precedent of violating the law, which can be deemed making that law unenforceable. I think the only other option would be a special use down the road, but that would have to go under legal advisement. I feel that our legal counsel would state the same thing still, that we're trying to use another means to bypass the legal definition of requirements under our way zoning. It's a difficult situation. It's hard.
So then it would be a year after,
But you are to decide what you might deem a reasonable time for it to stay there before it has to be removed.
gotcha.
You just don't want to get carried away where, once again, it's construed as bypassing the law.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Alan's point. You know, I think there's not a person here that probably doesn't sympathize with your situation, and I as well, you know, want to make sure you have a place to live, care for. But legally, as a commissioner, I think that is a concern of ours, is setting that precedent. I think a year to a year and a half to come up with the funds to either give them time to apply again for special use or down the road, there may be other options. But I think the hard thing is if we don't set that, if we don't stick to what our legal constitution is, then what's to say the next neighbor down the road will set something they don't like, you know? So I think that's a hard deal, and my you know, it's kind of hard. I'd like to appease the family, but unfortunately in this situation, I think that a year to a year and a half would have to be kind of the max I see for giving time to raise funds for either removal or giving them time to petition something at that time of planning and zoning.
Okay.
So, and I'm sorry about your health and wellness.
Come on up.
What would be considered special use?
It's a situation that is a unique situation that calls for, that our zoning ordinance does not necessarily address. And so you have an unusual circumstance, a condition that the regular zoning categories and the language with them does not address it. So you come in for a special use rezoning or special use overlay on it. There's going to be two cases tonight where we're using a special use because of some unusual or non-conforming conditions have been there for years. The problem is that once again, trying to apply the special use when there's an R1 zone lot, you have a single-wide mobile home that's being allowed to go in there for a limited time. where it's not allowed. The R1 zone says there will not be a mobile home. There can only be a double wide, and the reason is that a double wide is allowed because the state of New Mexico and the federal government deem that a double wide or multiple unit home classifies as a single family house, where a single wide does not. It's considered and classified as a mobile home only. And so it does not meet all the standards as a single family residence. So we differentiate between the two. And so if a double wide comes in, they can come in. There's nothing we can do about it. It's a single family home. Mobile homes are something else. Hope that explains it.
So Steve, just to clarify, if they had applied just to put a double wide in this deal, it would conform and there would be no need to move it out again or ever in again, right? Is that?
Yes, that was
just to
a
be clear?
law that was passed a few years ago, and in fact, it is such a stringent law that even a subdivision's covenants and restrictions cannot prevent now a double wide from coming into a subdivision.
Mr. Tomita, was the city aware of this part of this request from the beginning? Or has this happened since then? Because I don't think it was,
No,
you were aware of it.
no, the application was submitted as a variance for single wide, and it would be removed.
Okay,
Since the application and as such, he did come to me before this hearing and say, I want to ask.
okay,
whether to
okay,
stay there.
okay.
He said, you'll have to ask the commission.
All right, thank you.
I actually did put it in my application. I actually did put it in my application that we were gonna ask that I leave this here permanently.
That was for her to ask. I was not going to present that.
Is there an additional place?
This application?
It's the handwritten.
No, it's on her additional sheet. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions for our applicant? Yes, ma'am.
So I did have one other question for you guys. So on the other side of the street where the property's connected, there's also a single wide there. I'm not sure if that single wide's there because it's different zoning. I don't, or is like each road is separate zonings, or how does that work?
Mr. Tomita? Do we have our zoning map available?
We, this is one of the things that we're dealing with in the city, that over the years past, mobile homes, everything was allowed to go in at different places. Some of it was before there was an ordinance that got rid of it. Some of it was that they weren't being enforced.
So that's a
it's
non-conforming.
use, so
Okay.
they
All right.
get burned down, they go away.
I have a question for either of you.
Okay.
Yeah. What kind of time span do you think you need to recover the finances to move the trailer back off the property?
I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm gonna be facing at that time. I'm not sure. We don't know.
Day to day, how you know?
No, I understand. I do understand, I want you to know, I do understand your situation. I was a stage 4 cancer patient myself. And so there's a lady in the back of the room there that took care of me, and I know how important this is. So, but we are caught between that and the law, and that's our problem. So we're trying to work out a way to
Right.
make it work. So, okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And we, we do like to say that, we did speak with 8%, 9% of the neighbors. I mean,
Yep.
all of,
The, I
they're
under,
the ones that live there.
yeah, I understand that. I do. Thank you.
Any more questions or comments on this case? All right. We will move on to special use overlay for an existing, this is number 7B, special use overlay for an existing non-conforming use casita in an R1 single-family lot. Legal description is 1012 Ross Avenue, subdivision Redcliffe Addition, Lot 4. Mr. Tomita, will you?
Mr. Chairman, the agenda tonight was a little different in as much as this was a discussion and possible action. So you can take the action on the variance now.
Oh.
You don't have to go through all of them separately.
That's a change from
Yeah.
what we've done in the past. Okay. So should we go back to,
Go back to the variance and ask, you can ask,
Okay.
you can do a final discussion and call for motion. I do want to note that I did advise the applicant that it was temporary and that she could always ask the commission for it to stay there, but I said that it would be in violation of the R1 zoning.
okay. Okay, so we're back at 7A.
You closed the floor, did you?
I guess I did when I, when we moved to 7B, didn't we? So is there any other, we can still discuss it amongst ourselves here, so any other questions or comments or anything that the members of the commission would like to throw out there? I believe that Mr. Perry is, Commissioner Perry is right. We need to set a time frame, so it would set a very uncomfortable precedent for the Planning and Zoning Commission if we, in the city, if we went forward without having something there as far as time, so.
I would just like to point out, I know we all know this, but I'm not sure the public often realizes that our job here is to decide, and oftentimes the law, not what people may want or not. I agree with Dr. Sanchez, Commissioner Sanchez, that I think 18 months beyond the time of the requested use of the need would be an appropriate amount of time. And then if there's a further hardship, they're always welcome to come back and address it to us.
That's what I was going to relay, that you set a time period. If there's continued problems or anything else, they can always come back to the commission and ask for that to be extended.
All right, so do we have a motion on the floor for this one?
I think probably something other reasonable too is that, it can't be just the last day of the 18 months. It probably needed, 3-4 months prior to. You need to acknowledge, hey, we're having hardships, Can't be the last day, because legally, so you all know that these meetings have to be publicized. They have to be advertised. So, 4 to 6 months, you guys would probably need to come to whoever's in charge or whoever's running the city to let them know, hey, I'm having hardships. I need to apply to, to extend your period of time there, okay? And tough situation, so my thoughts with all you guys. Having said that, Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass the variance for the single-wide trailer to be placed on site for care of the family member, and with the removal or no longer than 18 months. Unless a special situation occurs, then they're allowed to apply for hardship to the council no later than 6 months from the expiration date.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second for, to approve the variance for the single-wide mobile home and up to 18 months after the passing of our friend, sorry, I don't know exactly how to say this, with you coming before the Planning and Zoning Commission a few months before that 18 months is up.
Second the motion,
Okay. We already have a,
Yeah, I seconded.
or 30.
so do we have all in favor of the motion as it's put together? Say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Very good, thank you. It passed, and you can get with Mr. Tamid about the proper permits.
And I wish you all's family well and
God bless you all.
the caretaking. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll move on to 7B. Again, the special use overlay for an existing non-conforming use casita on an R1 single residential lot. Legal description is 1012 Ross Avenue, subdivision Radcliffe Edition, lot number 4.
Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to bring up the street views here. Right here? Right there. This is a case that, similar to other ones we're been dealing with, and we're gonna see many more of them. There's be more and more activity in the city of Belen for housing sales and construction and resales of existing homes. And scattered throughout the city of Belen are homes on R1 single-family lots that in the rear you have casitas. And these go back many years, so that casita is a non-conforming use. And people are trying to fix them up and sell the home. And unfortunately, because on an R1, you can only put one single-family residence, that casita is a non-conforming use. And because it's a non-conforming use, if it burns down, it cannot be replaced. If it becomes dilapidated to a certain point to where to fix it back up again, it surpasses, I believe it's 25% of the value of the unit, it cannot be fixed back up. When they try to sell, or they try to sell the home, or they try to get a loan to fix up the residences on the property, the banks will not finance it because of the non-conforming use. So they're in a bad situation that here they have a dwelling unit that basically the bank says has no value, so therefore we don't finance against it. So this case and the one coming up, both of them have buyers. And they cannot close because the bank won't loan. So the only way that we can overcome that, which we've done in the past, is to implement a special use overlay that recognizes that the casita there, recognizes it is a non-conforming, and the special use is being implemented to remove that non-conforming designation and allow that casita to remain, to be repaired, and to be replaced if it should burn down. The condition that we've implemented in the past for this, like I said, there's gonna be a whole bunch more comes up, is that if it does get destroyed, they have to replace it in a year. Or at least begin construction and be moving towards that accomplishment. Like I said, unfortunately, they've been allowed to be built over the years throughout the city. So we have to keep dealing with this as we move forward to update our zoning ordinance, we might be able to look at some way that we can implement something in the language of our zoning ordinances to deal with this. But right now, this is the only way that we have available to overcome this obstacle, allow them to be sold or reconstructed, and provide financing on it. So at this point in time, I'm open to any questions you may have of me. No, they're on the same lot. As I said, it's an R1 lot that, an R1, you can only put one single-family home. So they've built a single-family home, and then behind it, in the rear, let me go to that. You can see it right here. This is a shed, which is loud, but you've got another small casita back here in the back residence. And I believe there's some across the street, same thing. There's a casita here. So, casita there, if I remember right. So, it's a situation we're dealing with throughout the city.
Mr. Chairman? Yes, sir. Mr. Trina, how long has this area been zoned R1?
I am not sure. The zoning ordinance was implemented in 1975. And we have casitas that have been there way before that. That's what the problem is. They've been there years before. Some of them they were just ignored because the attitude was this city of Belen, and just if you want to add a little house, add a little house.
Do you know how many previous times we've applied this SU1 overlay to these things?
It's been about 4 times now.
4 times.
And the kind of the comments, the consensus is we did that, like these, they didn't come in for a permit to remodel because we don't issue any permits to remodel the inside of a home, that's CID and stuff. So the code enforcement did not catch that they're doing that and said, stop, but they remodeled these. And the consensus in the previous cases, it's not really in the city's best interest to go and tell them to tear down something that can be remodeled and fixed back up and be a good living area and contribute to the community.
No, besides that, our new comprehensive plan is going to encourage higher density. We're all, I think, in favor of higher density. To me, it doesn't matter what the reason is why they need to do this. I have a issue with this because to me, I did quite a bit of research on overlay zones, special use overlay zones. I cannot find a single use where this has ever been done by taking one building on a lot and applying an overlay zone to that one building. So, being the not-so-smart guy that I am, okay, I decided to seek some counsel on this. So I got in touch with the president of the American Planning Association, New Mexico chapter, and I have an email from him. And I put this question to him, has he ever seen this use of this? And his response to me was no, he had not. And that there are other ways to go about doing it, including changing the ordinance. I also contacted the city planner for the city of Roswell and asked her the same question. And I don't think I want to repeat how she characterized it, but it basically it was the way to do this is to change the ordinance. Now, we have a problem because we've done it before, and these people need help. But my problem with this is that we are reaching out and helping somebody with their mortgage. Are we doing that for all our citizens? Yes,
wouldn't
no?
necessarily, well. let
That's
me-
exactly what
don't-
we're
don't-
doing, Mr. Tomita. We're reaching out and we're helping them with their mortgage,
I disagree.
okay?
And so you're leading my answer, and don't lead my answer. You ask me a question, let me answer it.
Okay.
Don't lead what I'm supposed to say.
So is a
okay?
yes or no answer? I'm just,
No,
I'm,
I
okay.
believe that we are trying to, where somebody's fixed up a home, remodeled it, to sell it, and they can't sell it because they can't get a mortgage, they can't get a bank to do
Right.
anything, so they cannot close on that house.
No, I
If it
understand the
burns down, they
conditions. I
can't replace
understand
it.
all
So
that.
it has nothing to
Yeah.
do with us trying to help with the mortgage. We're trying
Well, it
to
is
allow a
really,
sale
because
to occur.
that's effectively what we're doing. I mean, regardless of whether you agree with it or not, if the effect of what we do then is to allow them to get a mortgage that they otherwise would not be able to get. That's not my real problem. My real problem is then we have 3 of these on my block. I don't have one, but we have 3 just on my block. There are probably hundreds around Belen, if not 1,000. Okay. So we're going to have a zoning map with all these little dots of special use overlay that is unworkable, unmanageable. I think we've been making a mistake. Not that you started it, you probably didn't, I don't know. But I think we've been making a mistake all the time doing this. But we find ourselves in a legal issue here. We've done it before, and it's very difficult now to say no. I think that there's a way to do this that's cleaner, faster, and solves the entire problem for the entire city. I just want to say here, I have in front of me the planning law primer, making use of overlay zones. Most overlay zones are used for either environmentally sensitive areas such as floodplains, wetlands, hillsides, aquifers. It's usually used for historic buildings or historic areas. A recent but increasing popular type of overlay zone deals with development along specified transit corridors. But one thing that everything I read says is that it must accrue to the benefit of the city as a whole. And I don't see how this does that. I really don't. But there is a suggestion I have. And so that I think I'd like to make this suggestion now because I think it's faster and cleaner for everybody. And that is that we stop making this mistake now. This is a paragraph added to our R1 ordinance. It's a paragraph, that's all it takes. I have the wording from the Roswell paragraph, they did the same thing. And what we do is we issue them a conditional use permit that will automatically expire when the city council adopts the new ordinance. Then tomorrow you can write them a letter, send them on their way. They're happy, mortgage company is happy. We're not continuing to set a bad precedent, which I don't like doing. And we finally get the ordinance straightened out. Do you have a problem with that?
No, the special use, if you read the last sentence of the special use, it allows it to address anything that's unusual, anything that's not clearly addressed in the zoning ordinance.
But it must accrue to the benefit of the city as a whole. That is the thing that this one is not doing.
Mr. Perry, do you have that paragraph with you to read?
And I don't, that's taking a pretty, I think, restrictive stance, because if you refuse to allow the casitas in the city of Belen-NM to be torn down, then you're not serving, you're not serving the city as a whole.
We're not doing that.
My problem has been in the past is every time I try to do even a minor amendment to the zoning ordinance, the council said, quit trying to change the zoning ordinance.
You're dealing with a different council
Well, I
and a different
understand that.
commission.
We're just now merging with the new council.
Right.
And so that's why these practices move forward. In fact, in the past, the city tried to grant R2 zoning, which was spot zoning. And so the final solution was the SU1 for now. I don't disagree with you, I'm just saying.
Okay, so you do
understand-
agree this is a good way to do it?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
good, good.
But we can't do that tonight,
Why not?
because they applied for special
That-
use.
I don't think that matters.
There's no advertisement that you could do something else.
We can decide to change that, and since the effect is the same, the request is the same and the effect is the same, I don't believe that we need to have them go away and come back. I think you can issue the conditional use permit once we vote on it.
If you want to take that action, I will then take it to the attorney. If the attorney agrees that you did a legal action, that's fine. If it deems that because it was not published to be something, possibly something else, and therefore was not a proper action, then it's negated. Just understand that you're
I understand
acting on a legal basis without a legal opinion.
Well, except for that legally and factually, the facts of the case are the same, and the effect of our decision will be the same. Therefore, I don't believe there's any reason to go back and redo this whole thing. I think we get these people their letters, do a conditional use, and stop making this mistake. Now, if the commission doesn't agree with me, and they think that we ought to stick with this SU1, that's fine. But I think then we ought to say this is the last one we ever do and get the ordinance changed.
So I have a question for you. You said betterment of the city as a whole. I guess I'm not exactly sure of the words you used. Who makes that determination? Are you sitting back making that determination for the rest of, I mean, for yourself, obviously. But I kind of see that, taking this, it does make the city better as a whole, because if we start stopping improvements and stopping the sale of property that have these things that are on them, I mean,
That's not what we're doing. We're actually allowing the sale, and,
hold on a second. Through the SU1, through the special use
right,
overlay, you're saying that that's not a good use of that tool
true.
because it does not improve the city.
No, that's not what I said. No, I think you maybe I misspoke.
Okay.
The SU1 overlay in this case, by putting it on one building, on one lot, it's basically spot zoning in sheep's clothing
Versus what?
versus,
Saying this neighborhood gets a special use, is that what you're trying to?
if you want to do a special use overlay for the whole neighborhood, then why not for the whole city? But the special use overlay isn't really what our problem is. Our problem is the ordinance. All we need is a one paragraph added to our ordinance, and all of these all over the city become legal.
Can you read that?
The, what,
The paragraph
of,
that you're,
What you're proposing.
well, no, the paragraph I was referring to is the part where it says that it should be to the benefit of the city as a whole. What I'm saying, this is my take, is that from the planner at the city of Roswell and the president of the American Planning Association all said to me, this is not a good use of SU1 overlay. This is not normal. He couldn't think of a single one he'd ever seen. And both of them agreed that the way to fix this problem is to do it through the ordinance, to get these people moving and to keep from treating them unfairly, these applicants. I think we have the right here to say, no, we're not going to approve an SU1. We're going to change it to conditional use, make it expire when we get those, when we get that before the ordinance before the council.
Point taken, but what verbiage would you propose that we use to change the ordinance?
Wait a minute. You got to talk to that man there.
Yeah, we're still kind of discussing which way we're going here.
I do want to make note that the comment that this is to do mortgages, conditional use is going to be the same thing. So I just want to note that, I don't,
And I agree with that 100%. But then we're at least making only one mistake, not two.
So what you're proposing is to put this paragraph in, and then they don't have to come and put an application to do a special, to do an application
No.
for a SU1?
No, what I'm saying is that we just take it upon ourselves to say, SU1 is not correct. Give them a
Condition,
conditional use
basically.
that will expire when the city council approves the change to the R1 zoning ordinance to allow these types of buildings all over the city.
So basically, our R1 says it's defined as X, Y, and Z. And then hopefully at some point, if city council says, well, let's just change R1 to describe casitas being a part of it. And then they no longer need a conditional
They never have
use.
to come
Right.
in and do an
and
SU1.
it.
It'll be
and
permanent, yes.
Understand that language is not going to be super simple, because the casitas are in violation of setbacks too. And so we'll have to deal with that in the future if we allow casitas, that those are going to have to comply with setbacks, and so they're still going to have conditional uses or whatever because of the setbacks and stuff. So it's going to be complex when we go to modify an ordinance.
Question, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would still prefer, I understand, Commissioner, what you're trying to accomplish, go with the conditional use. I would prefer that the commission continues with the overlay. We've already done it in the past. And then allow me to confer with legal counsel for any other cases that may come forth. Well, though, if we just move forward with the conditional use after that, because I prefer not to have to go to legal counsel after this evening and say, they decided to do something other than what was advertised and granted a different condition. Was that legal or not? And if he says, no, it wasn't, they still have to come back. So I recommend continue with it tonight with the special uses, and then in the future, we move forward with conditional uses.
Okay, I understand your problem with that. Every time that we just did a variance, and we just set conditions upon that variance that were not advertised. We do this all the time. So I just disagree that that's what needs to be done. Now, we're welcome to call the city attorney. Maybe we should have asked him to be here tonight. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is the paragraph right here that is in the Roswell city ordinance. It's not long, and Roswell did it. I don't know why we can't do it. I don't know why we have to reinvent the wheel. In any case, I think, I would just like to see these people get their letters, get on their way, not be held up anymore. We had there was a closing on the 22nd, I think. That's passed.
Yes.
I don't know what's going on there. We can hear from them in a minute.
We
But
received the
I want you to
application
give serious consideration to this, because I really believe this is a bad use of overlay. Not only that, but think about what it does to our zoning map. If we continue down this road, we're going to have a zoning map that is whacked. We need to stop it. And I'm just saying, let's stop it now. You're saying, let's do this and then stop it.
Question for conditional use, what is the build back if it burns down, that sort of thing?
You need to understand, contrary to what you're saying, on conditional uses, variances, special uses, planned unit developments, those are categories that are negotiated. You don't advertise that this is negotiated. That's a standard given language. And so we don't have to advertise that. But changing from an application of a special use to a conditional use is a little different than negotiating what goes into that.
There's another advantage too, and that is you don't have to take the conditional use to the city council.
Mr. Perry, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Could you read the paragraph, please?
Which one? I'm not sure which one you want.
Ones that you'd like to add in, the verbiage?
Oh, well, I'm not saying that it's the perfect.
Sure, but could you
Verbiage.
read it just so we have an idea?
Okay, so it says use regulations. Permitted uses are as follows. Single-family detached dwelling per lot, that's number one, single-family detached dwelling per lot. 2, home occupations. 3, publicly owned police, fire stations, parks or playgrounds and related buildings. These are what's allowed. Okay, this is what's allowed. Number 4, lots with pre-existing dwelling units in livable condition built prior to January 1, 2010 that are located 75 feet or greater from the front property lines are allowed to develop a second detached residential structure greater than 400 square feet in an area on the front part of the property that is under one property ownership, architecturally compatible with the surrounding properties, meets current setback requirements, is located a minimum, this goes on and on. Now, this fit their thing. My point is that we can do a paragraph that covers our situation here, much like this. But number 5, this is the real paragraph. More than one livable dwelling unit per lot built or converted to a dwelling unit prior to January 1st, 2010. That's it. That's all they put in there. Now, Mr. Tomita is correct, I believe, that we do have things to address. But I don't think it's a whole nother ordinance. I think it's a paragraph about this size. Go ahead.
I have to agree with Mr. Tomita. If you look at the application, I think if we do anything other than a special use permit tonight, that it will come back. Legal counsel will send it back to us and say, that's not what you're supposed to be doing or looking at this evening.
Can I get clarification on the conditional use? Can it be built back if it burns down?
You have to state that.
No, the way it is now, we can specify that or not, okay?
Yes. Like I said, conditional
Yeah.
uses, variances, special uses, those you allow to add conditions upon those. That's what they're all
Okay.
about.
Okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll gather my thoughts, thank you.
I'm not against, well, I am against the SU1 overlay for this use. I'm not against doing it one more time, as long as we make it clear as a body that they're never going to come another one here before us.
I hate to tell you this, the next one is another SU one.
No, I know that. There's 2 here tonight. I'm addressing both of them at the same time. I'm addressing both of these at the same time, yeah. I mean, after this meeting, not a single one comes before us. We change this and get it right for the entire city.
That might take some arm twisting with city council, but
Right, we can't speak on their behalf, whether they would approve it or not. And I think that it would be wrong of us to say, we're not reviewing any more of these, because who knows, we might have 15 more by the end of the calendar year coming up.
You just received one, it's already been published.
So I think that,
Mr. Tomita, what would it take to change that ordinance, that R1, if we were to?
Comes before you all, you recommend, we combine, we recommend the language for it, and then it goes to council. You recommend that to go to council, the council amends the ordinance to adopt that.
So we can kind of start that at the next meeting, or maybe?
Yeah.
I do agree with Mr. Perry's point as far as things go. No one's trying to stop these folks from having their house. No one's trying to be under a delusion that Belen doesn't have these dwellings. But if we have the conditional use already in there, then they can just get a letter from the city and they never have to come in front of us, if I understand right. And it makes y'all's times easier, and it's less grunt to do it up front properly. So I do agree with that point. I think for the sake of time and argument, we, could proceed tonight with even consider the case and hear from the folks, and maybe put a stipulation on us, pending the further conversations. But I do believe in doing things right the first time, the best we can. Being that this is new information to us, I think that we probably ought to give it a little bit of time to process and brew and make sure we do it legally and proper. I kind of agree with you to think it's probably okay, but I think it probably behooves us to take legal advice on that in a further meeting.
And you can impose tonight on the special use that it goes away when the ordinance is changed.
I think that's what well, okay, yeah, right. Same thing as the conditional use that I said, right. It can automatically sunset.
Yes.
and we can write that in as we change. We could write that anything previous sunsets after it's adopted either, so we can go both ways and cover all those back ones that they have all over the map.
Okay. Any other comments for Mr. Tomita on this case? If the applicants would like to come up and just state your name, and we all kind of know what's going on, but
So my name is John Mendoza, and I was born and raised in Belen. I grew up on Camino de Llano. So I have property in Osero, but so I bought the house in Belen a few years ago. I didn't know that I didn't know it was illegal. You know, all the paperwork went through. My appraiser came in and yay, and let's do it. Hey, I'll buy. So I understand what Mr. Perry is saying, but of course you want Belen to be properly zoned, you want everything done proper, but I'm sorry, there's a lot of places that ain't, so you're gonna have to just deal with them, you guys are the bosses, of course, but these are gonna come up quite a bit, and maybe that should be advertised somehow, somewhere with the housing market, or people that are selling, hey, if it's not, there's gotta be something, I understand what he's saying, he's right, you know what I mean? But the back desk, there's nothing wrong with it. It's passed inspection. I put windows in it. There's nothing wrong with it. I know that it was probably built in the 80s or 70s. I don't know when they added it. I just bought it.
Right.
So I've done upgrades to it, and I've used electricians. I've used licensed plumbers. I've used Hessingers. I've used Ortegas. I use people within my city. I don't bring, I grew up here. So this is just kind of a situation where I'm like, so I'm selling now, because for a personal reason, so I'm gonna move back, to Osero. And the whole R1 and R2, I need to understand what that is, because I wanna come back and buy in Belen, but before I do, I don't wanna make the same mistake that's going on right now. So R1 means you can't put a mobile home there? Cause I'm a little confused, cause, I understand we're here for a whole different reason, but I bought this property the way it is, and I just fixed it up a little bit and put money into it, so I'm just trying to get this, I don't even know what the layover, I don't even know what that means, but I'm learning.
Right, well, this is what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to the point where you don't have to worry about all of this, where people in Belen that have these in their houses, on their property, don't have to go through this mess. You are just the unfortunate guy who brought this up, and and we appreciate what you're doing. We always appreciate people who are fixing Belen up, and I'm all for that. I am 100% behind what you want to do. I am. I just am not behind the way the development office wants to do it. And I think there's an easier way for you to.
So how is that affecting me with?
It doesn't right now. We're gonna make sure you're okay, I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean, that's all I had to say, I think there's gonna be a bunch more probably coming up, who knows, but however you guys fix it, I'm sure it'll be fine. But I do have questions for somebody about the R1 and R2, and if you purchase, what you could put there and what you can't.
There's a great website you can go to. It's called Municode. Just Google Municode, MUNICODE. Put in Belen, and you'll get all of the Belen city ordinances. Scroll down to zoning.
Okay.
Click on zoning. Then go down to
I
R1,
think I can figure
and
that
you
out.
can read it all. You can read all of them.
Yes.
They're right there. And the reason I say that to you is because I want everybody else to know this too.
Yes,
So when you bought this property, did you pay cash for it?
no, I got financed, so my appraiser.
So they financed you with the casita and
Yeah.
everything?
Yes,
It's not
So
unusual.
tell these
Yeah.
people to go to that financier place. And then you don't have this problem. Oh, shucks.
Right.
Huh?
Just over the last few years, the banks have changed.
Well,
So back when you bought this property, you didn't have this problem. The people that are buying the house are having this problem. That's why
Yes.
you're here trying to
yes,
rezone
so
it.
they had to change borrowers, they went from USDA to.
Correct.
So they made it work on their end, but we're still having to go
Correct.
through. So they did whatever they had to do.
So
That's
he's
why we're here.
proposing to make it easier for people.
I do have a question for you. It says here that you had a scheduled closing date of August 22nd? Was that,
So she's my realtor, so.
oh,
Good evening, my name is Patricia Garcia, I'm with TTM Realty. Yes, so basically, as Ms. Baca had asked, we did purchase the property last year, it was a year ago. It fell through the cracks, the appraiser totally didn't even go in and see the setback for the casita as it was supposed to be, so, he bought it on a USDA loan. That went through, everything went good, so.
You pulled the microphone. There you
So
go. Thank you.
this year, he's trying to sell it, and we went through the same process, and we were in the middle of the appraiser going out there, and the appraiser went out there, he did his appraisal, his report, he couldn't even move forward because he saw the 5 feet from the back fence, that it was supposed to be 20 feet, I believe, and so it was, or supposed to be 15 feet, and it was only 5 feet. So that kind of threw everyone for a loop. We do have a buyer. They're actually moving in from out of state, as a matter of fact, and they didn't want to deal with everything out in Albuquerque, which is reasonable, even in Los Lunas, so they chose Belen. But this is where we got caught up in this particular issue with the casita in the back. And so, and I believe, as Ms. Silva knows, we have a lot of different regulations that we have to go through regarding USDA, FHA, MFA. There's so many different
Right.
requirements that are needed.
But-
This actually isn't even my first time having a case come in for special use permit, so hopefully.
But this problem, I guess what I was getting at was, your sale is still okay?
It's still good, yes. We were
Okay.
able to extend it, hoping that everything went through tonight, and then we can get it closed here pretty soon.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions from anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this evening? Okay. Probably just wait for yours and we'll get everybody together at once. Okay? Mr. Tomita, do you have any final comments?
Yeah, the reason they're here, we went past the 22nd, of course, because we couldn't advertise in the newspaper in time to have the 15-day on that. We had discussed about doing in the past a blanket SU or something over everything, but the concern was, is we approve something that's a ramshackle shack that's ready to fall down and gonna be condemned. We were concerned that we're approving something that should have been gotten rid of. So we looked at the legalities involved, and it had to be taken one at a time unless we changed the ordinance, like you said.
Right,
So we
right.
had
And
to
that's
treat
the
these
reason to change the
individually,
ordinance, right, right. Because you
So
can't do that.
That was some of the problems dealing in the past on this thing. And the banks, the problem they have is that when they're financing, they're putting a lien on a property, they're putting a lien on everything that's on there. And so their loan on that is based upon the value of all the improvements. So if the casita burns down and it can't be replaced, they've lost part of their mortgage lien on it. So that's why the banks are now taking a different stand. Is in the past, the cities weren't enforcing ordinances, so they weren't concerned. Cities are enforcing ordinances, so banks say, well, we better get something because we can't loan against something that can't be replaced.
Yeah. I think it's easy to deal with these issues that you're bringing up, and you rightly bring them up. They're important issues. I'm not so concerned about the grandfathering in the non-conforming setbacks. I'm much more concerned that we put in some language that says it has to be fit for human habitation, and that, if possibly some language that says if you renovate or fit more than 50% of it is destroyed, then you must bring it up to code, language like that. But we're still talking about a paragraph 2 to our ordinance, and I think I just want to do it the clean way so that everybody out there that has these things, and gosh knows how many there are. If there's 3 on my block alone, well, they don't have to go through this mess, and they don't have to wait and have a screwed up sale possibly. That's what I'm after. I'm after doing it the clean way, the right way. That's all there is.
I agree.
And I think we ought to bring that up at a subsequent meeting, something in the future. So put it on the agenda and let's start talking about it.
I'll be happy to write the language. We'll do it at our next meeting. Then it can go to the city council, the meeting after that.
It'll have to be published 15 days ahead of time again also.
To get it, to have it approved.
Yeah.
You're right, all right. So meeting after, yeah.
We can talk about it next meeting.
Nothing fast,
So,
It can be faster than we have been going, though.
Okay, so there,
I'm going as fast as I can.
any other comments? Okay, I'm going to close the floor on this, and then are there any comments from the commission? And if nobody has a comment, then we will accept a motion, one way or the other.
I'll move to do the SU1 overlay on this property with the proviso that we all agree that we're going to follow the changing the ordinance. I don't see any reason to put a lot of conditions on these at this time, and that the SU1 overlay sunset when and if the ordinance is adopted by the city council.
I second Mr. Perry's proposal.
So we have a motion on the floor to accept the SU1 overlay for 1012 West Ross Avenue with a sunset when and if there's new changes to the ordinance for properties like this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye. No, aye.
Okay, very good. We'll move on to number 3. Thank you all. Actually, number 7C is a special use overlay for an existing non-conforming use casita on R1 single-family lot. Legal description of subdivision land of Joe L. Onsima P. Salas. Sorry, I didn't practice that before I came in this evening. Track 5A 1B2, 0.31 acres, map 0.31 acres, map 96, 1997 revised, 3 and 3C Salas Road. Mr. Tamita.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is the exact same situation. It's been a long-standing casita, and it has been remodeled, and it is going on the market, or is on the market. Once again, the problem is you can't get any financing on it. The casita is, as you can see, brought up to date. The home has been brought up to date, so it's ready to move forward. So the applicant applied for the special use to allow the casita to remain there and not be deemed a non-conforming use, so it can be replaced.
Any questions from the commission for Mr. Tamita? Haven't we done this already tonight?
Everything I said before, I say now. I do have one question, Mr. Tamita.
Yeah,
It says here, ownership of property as is Chief Construction LLC. I suspect that's you. Okay. It says applicant has submitted required documents showing the applicant as the authorized agent. Do you have that document? Because I don't see it in here.
yeah, it was brought in.
It was. You saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's the same person.
Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Tamita? If the applicant would like to come forward and tell us all about your remodeled house you're going to sell, that would be wonderful.
Hello, Commission. My name is Eric Rasban. I am the property owner here. I got a few questions. I can appreciate Commissioner Perry's, fixes to make this right for later on uses. But for right now, the problem we have, we can't move forward until those roadblocks are, broken up. So I think that in doing so, we should move forward with the requests that we put in. And it would just help me and probably these other people, get their sales and do what they should do. I don't think that we're tearing down Belen to, we're trying to improve it and bring people into affordable housing is all we're trying to do. I don't think we're destroying the community by fixing up a house that's been there since probably the 1950s, 40s. I'm not sure exactly when it was built, but I'm pretty sure the casita was built with the house, so. Your zoning is dated from 1975, you said, so this predates that, so I think it should take precedence over that, but I guess that's for you guys to decide. I'm just trying to, tear down some of these roadblocks that we have to move forward on these properties. We had an appraisal done. The appraisal stipulated that it would need to be rezoned before a resale. So when I bought it, I'm a cash buyer, so I don't have those problems. But anybody else going to buy this house is gonna have those problems. No bank's gonna loan on a house with a casita. So, I think that's all I've gotta say on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions for Mr. Rasbin?
I just want you to know that we're not trying to hold you up, we're trying to speed you up. We do appreciate anytime somebody comes into Belen, wants to start making it better. I applaud that. What we want to do is make it easier for you so you don't have to come through this process. Like I said to the other gentleman, you just happen to be the two at the tip of the spear today that this is being talked about. So I apologize if anything seemed like we were trying to hold you up. We weren't. We're really trying to get it better for you. I do have one question, though. Since this is a zoning change, did the development office give you signs to post on the property?
I believe they set up their own signs.
They did? Okay, good,
Yes.
good. All right.
Correct, and there is a sign in front of the house.
Okay, good.
And it's
That's-
been there for quite some time now.
Good, good.
And with respect to what you're saying, I think it's a timely matter that you're talking about, changing the zoning or whatever, so future applicants don't have to go through. But in the meantime, I think me and this other gentleman here are stuck with the delay. You said it was about 15 days. You'd have to put out something with the attorney to get the language in there, and then it'd be another.
No, that's for the future people.
Oh,
that's for the
voting
future,
tonight.
yeah,
They've
yeah,
already
yeah,
passed them. They're good to go with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll
We'll vote on yours,
you don't have,
and
I
then you
don't,
should,
we'll,
depending on how we vote, you'll be good or not good. But for future people, that's.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just, for the time constraints, I was just hoping that
No,
this
you're
would
okay.
move
Don't
down the
stress.
road.
Don't
Yeah.
stress.
Today's votes are for today's application.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. All right.
Yeah, you're
That's
okay.
all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to say anything about this special use permit? Okay. Then we will close the floor. Any discussion against them with the commission? Sorry, it's been a long day.
I think we've kind of covered it.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to move on.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the change Mr. Rasband proposed to the special use, accept a special use for this. Permit at this time, and
You want to add in the sunset?
sure, right into the sunset.
yeah, to be fair, they ought to both be worded the same. Yeah.
Yeah, we word the words accept it and word it the same as the previous condition.
I second his proposal. I'm not gonna repeat all.
So we have a motion and a second for the SU1 overlay with a sunset. When and if the change to the ordinance happens? All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed? Okay. Thank you all very much this evening. You're good to go. See Mr. Tomita tomorrow morning, and he should have you all the paperwork.
Alan's the only one allowed to have white hairs here,
So you guys
okay?
approve for
You guys are
your
good.
change,
Yeah.
okay?
By the way, that brings up a question. Mr. Tomito, we will be able to get these folks their paperwork tomorrow, right? Okay, for sure.
No.
What?
This is a special use. Has to go to council.
Oh,
You already have it on the council agenda, right?
I got council to agree to hear it Tuesday,
Okay,
which is very unusual, but they're allowing it.
yeah.
tomorrow they'll hear it.
Tomorrow, Tuesday?
No,
Yeah,
Sixth.
no,
it's already been
Oh, sorry,
posted.
the 6th.
Because the SU has to be adopted through a formal ordinance.
so, okay, good, that's good. That's as fast as it can happen for
Yeah,
them.
your approval tonight allows me to move forward, and it's a recommendation to the council to approve.
Right. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Move on this evening to discussion, comprehensive plan, Site Southwest. You had to sit through an awful lot to give us a little talk tonight, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Phyllis.
Thank you. Oh. Well, maybe they want to.
Yeah, so it's been
Thank you.
a long evening. I don't know if you want to hear my whole presentation or not.
Well,
Synopsis would be great.
I assume that you got a copy of the draft, which is, as you probably noticed, not complete, but getting there. And we had our public meeting last week, and so there's several steps left to go. One is we need to complete the document and fill in the missing sections. Then we would like to have a workshop with the department staff to make sure we didn't miss anything, and now they'll be able to see kind of how it lays out, and we'll probably think of things that need to be in there and aren't. And then we would bring it back to the planning commission. So it's in an administrative draft form now. Then it would be brought to the planning commission as a public review draft and made available for the public. And we would have another public hearing on that, not public hearing, public meeting on that public review draft. One of the ideas that I brought up with the staff is the idea that we have a joint planning commission council workshop to go through it. I've done that sometimes and it's helpful. And then you guys have your hearing, the council has its hearing, and it kind of goes through the approval process that way. So I could go through kind of the highlights if you want. I know you're tired.
I think the highlights would be good.
Okay, I'll try to make them quick highlights.
Okay.
And can I make this? There. There, okay. Now, can I make it, if I click, does it move? No. Okay, so this is just a status that I went over with you. This is the wrong version. The right version was up a little while ago.
Oh, okay. Where's my mouse?
I don't know.
There it is.
Sorry. And it just says town hall and plan summary on it. Yeah, this one. And that's I won't try, this is a PDF, so I won't try to make it. I can't even see the plus. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Okay, so just going through the plan outline that you're looking at, how did you do that? No, oh, here we go. So we have the introduction, we have the community profile. There's been a lot of that information already shared at our public meetings before. There's a section on cultural resources, community facilities, land use, economic development, parks, open space and trails, infrastructure, transportation, hazard mitigation. And then the last step for us will be getting an implementation section in there. And that will be with staff and then modified after this goes through the second public meeting before it gets to you. And that's where we talk about who's going to do what, the priority, the relative cost. And I don't know why I can't there. So each chapter talks about community priorities. We have some of those already, and we'll continue to fill that in as we go through the draft reviews. There's background information about existing condition and future plans. Then there's kind of goals that are a high-level desired outcome, policies that are kind of commitments being made to achieve the goals, and then specific action steps that are being discussed now and being recommended. That would be kind of a to-do list for the city. And then the implementation with the responsibilities, potential partners, funding sources, cost, and priority, that comes last. So just some highlights. Looking at cultural resources, we've heard a lot about how much people value Belen's downtown and the resources that are there, the Harvey House Museum, the library, the Art League, through the Flower, and that Main Street is working really hard to improve downtown and getting an arts and cultural district in place. So the goals were really to maintain the downtown, provide for infill residential development, fill in vacant commercial buildings, continue to develop arts and cultural organizations, programs, and facilities in the downtown area. And I don't know if you guys want to have comments on any of these, or I should just go through it and wait till the end. Community facilities looked at public safety, police, fire, and ambulance, animal control, public works, the library again as a building, airport, parks and rec, other public and private service providers, and then kind of the goals that have come out of that for facilities. And I think this is one where staff may have some other ideas once we have the workshop with them, is the need for an expanded police department facility in downtown. And there's also been discussion, which I neglected to put here, but is in the plan about possible relocation of City Hall to give more space to them as well. Then land use, which I've been listening to this evening, is really looking at existing zoning and the future land use plan. We've talked about those before also. But it's important to people to preserve the character of the old part of Belen, provide areas for higher densities, so there are urban and commercial corridors identified in the plan, looking at some downtown infill, code enforcement and keeping a clean and attractive community, concentrating commercial development in these urban and commercial corridors with some neighborhood scale businesses in the neighborhoods, so that commercial scale is along the main highways through town. And then update the zoning code to accomplish the plan goals, and the infill and the ability to do accessory dwellings, et cetera, are part of that code update. Then housing has been identified as one of the highest priorities. It came up in several of the groups and was also identified, or the other night, and also was identified by council. You're getting some of the first new housing in many years now, so that is happening. And just trying to have adequate housing to meet current and future housing needs, having a more diverse mix of housing types available to people, maintaining existing homes, including energy efficiency updates. And then there was a surprising support for affordable housing, and kind of making sure that that's one of the housing types that's available to people. And at the public meeting, there was mention of tiny homes, especially in downtown where you have narrow lots. And so maybe looking at some house configurations and setback configurations that allow construction on those lots. And then mobile homes as a potential for affordable housing. For economic development, there's an existing manufacturing base, and the city has a capacity to support more. Intermodal transportation is a strength. There are West Mesa land resources in Rancho Cielo and near the airport that are ideal for not only industrial development for manufacturing, but also industrial scale solar. There's a desire for more diverse retail and being able to keep more spending dollars in the community. And then most employed residents commute elsewhere to work, and most workers commute in from elsewhere. So there's like this switch over every day, I guess. And partly I think that has to do with the opportunities in the region and how close the communities are to each other, that there's a lot more commuting back and forth. But it also says, A, you might want to look at housing that would meet the needs of those people who are commuting in here. And B, look at jobs for those people that are commuting out to work. Just saying. And then you have regional economic development organizations that I think in the past few years are much more focused on the entire region. And so that's a benefit to Belen. And I saw in the paper that there's a new GRIP incentive, and probably need to make sure that's mentioned. So the goals were really increasing economic-based businesses that provide higher than average wages. We got comments about people really wanting to see opportunities that would lift families in Belen out of poverty, provide support for existing retail and bring in a more diverse retail sector, and then a goal to have the successful Main Street Partnership and Arts and Cultural District and a thriving downtown. And those are all things that are something the city can support. For parks, open space, and trails, we looked at how much land is available in Belen just in terms of total acreage. And it's pretty well suited to the population today. But it's concentrated in the older part of Belen. And so new parks are going to be needed to serve new development as things happen on the Mesa. And just recognize that that's an additional capital outlay, and it's also an additional maintenance cost as the city grows. The Rio Grande Trail and adjacent open space is an opportunity. The bike trails came up as a high priority from the public. And then the goal is really to have an open space trail system that meets the needs of all the residents and is well located. And there was a request for a master plan for that, and also the possibility to collaborate with your neighboring communities on some of the regional initiatives like the trails, the Rio Grande Trail system. And these are just highlights. They're not everything that's in there. For infrastructure, the things that really jumped out were the need for a new wastewater treatment plan and to deal with flooding. Those were the most identified needs. So making sure that the new wastewater treatment plant is a priority, and in the ICIP, which is the capital improvements plan that goes to the state, and that there can be a request for a drainage management plan in central Belen to sort of address the flooding issues. And it looked like maybe things back up against the highway, and that's a cause of flooding, is it's like a dam or something. So I think there are ways to kind of address that. For transportation, there was a comment that multimodal transportation is a strength in this area. It's been one of the things that's attractive for for industrial development. There's a goal to complete the North Interchange and improve interstate access, improvements to the regional airport to accommodate more different types of aircraft, and then improve rail transit in terms of the rail runner schedule for people who are trying to commute in. There's also some transportation corridors that have been identified for improvement. And then hazard mitigation is really another countywide initiative, and Belen participates in that. The plan, the emergency management planning is done through the county, and the local governments collaborate. And it's important for that to maintain the capabilities of the city staff and to participate in the things that are going on countywide with respect to training activities, and just to make sure that Belen is pulling its weight with the regional emergency management folks. So this is the comprehensive plan status that we already talked about, and then I can go through the results of the town hall, but I don't have to do that. Do you have questions about the plan itself?
These are all things that you're putting together based on the last,
It's based on looking at, it's based on talking to staff. I've had a couple of meetings with the five of you in the public hearings that you've had prior, and we had the public meeting. And we also are doing interviews that we have not completed. So we're getting the information that way.
okay? What are your, what is the time frame on this looking like?
I think we're looking at having the next public meeting before I leave for a week vacation on the 23rd.
You're not allowed to go anywhere.
So we need to get that pulled together and get our staff workshop set up.
So, and what would that public meeting be?
It would be to go over the draft plan.
Okay. On the what? The 20, the 23rd of
23rd. So
September?
it would be that, yes, of September.
Obviously, Alan, yeah.
So it'll be before that Friday.
So that puts us basically 2 months late to the council from what we originally spoke about. It was going to go about end of August, a draft to the city council about end of August, I think was what we originally said. So if we have that meeting in September, we're not going to get a draft to the city council till October. Would you agree with that?
That's probably right.
Okay.
I think we said we'd have a draft to review by the end of August.
Right, yeah. If we had accurate minutes, we could go back and check that, but we don't. In any case, my worry is that we're getting farther and farther behind. I don't really care why we're behind. I don't care who is the reason why we're behind. That's not my concern, really. In the very first meeting, and in fact, way back, I think it was in February, when I first brought up the idea of having a consultant help us with the plan. And when you were here, I asked that there be a schedule done with all of the important milestones in that schedule. And I just want to make the point that if we had done that schedule, which was never produced, even though we all agreed that it should be, we would have been able to probably realize we were getting late and maybe have mitigated it and maybe not be so late in the end. I'm just a little disappointed that when this commission asked for something, it didn't get done. And I'm not saying that I just think that we asked for it, we really should have had it. I think it would have helped us at this point, be not so late. You told me at the meeting that we were going to see the raw data from that meeting as well as the compiled version. Is that in here?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Is there any way, can you email this to us or something? So that we can have time to go over it rather than, just do that all here?
Sure.
Okay. Also, I think I would really appreciate if, because three of us went to the meeting, Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Silva, and I. We walked in there, we had absolutely no idea what was going on, what was going to happen. And I think we would have all appreciated you coming to us, explaining what the meeting was going to be about, and allowing us to give you our view on it, maybe some suggestions, pat on the back, that sounds like a great idea. I was very impressed with the engagement that was shown by all the people who participated. People were very engaged. And the only other thing I would say is please pick a different venue. That was so echoey and loud for whatever meeting is coming up that it was really, really hard for people to hear. So just a couple things there. I know that there's a lot of frustration on the part of, I think, everybody about getting this thing out. How many pages do you think it'll be in the end?
Hopefully less than 100.
Okay. Well, I'm not judging it by how many pages. I'm just, saying, okay.
I mean, there'll be appendices, I guess, that could make
Okay.
it go over all the meeting
Right.
minutes and notes and everything. But
And I gave you an additional thing that I should bring up here because I gave it to you at that meeting and we weren't all there. I suggested that we have an additional chapter added for renewable energy and resource conservation. And I think that's very important. I think if you were at the meeting, you would have seen that this was on the minds of everybody. And so I think we need to add that chapter if we can. And fill that out with, a lot of good things like encouraging solar and encouraging tankless water heaters and encouraging all kinds of technology that will help us save water, save electricity. There's a lot of things that can go into that. We haven't had a chance to sit down and talk about any of this because we didn't have the workshops that we were supposed to have.
Mr. Perry, I understand where you're coming from, and I understand you're frustrated, but being here second longest to Jim, to be honest with you, I just appreciate things are moving forward. So I know it's not meeting our timelines and our goals exactly, but to be honest with you, I'm just glad things are moving forward. So I agree with him. I think the energy sector should be added to it. And, thank you for your work, and but to his point though, if we can stick to where we're at, I appreciate that. But I very much appreciate you getting us in a better direction than we have been for the year and a half plus that I've been on this commission. So thank you.
Yeah, I want to add to that too, that we do appreciate what you've done. Don't get me wrong. We all appreciate where we are today. But I'm not sure we should lose sight of the fact that it has taken us 12 years to get to this point.
I was not involved.
And that is not your fault. I know that. You are exonerated on this completely.
Mrs. Taylor, I do have a question because this is your forte and not mine. When we include business names, or will we be including business names in the final comprehensive plan? Because I did see some notes on different things. Through the Flower, I know, is a private organization. LGI was referenced in one of the slides for the public meetings. And I'm just curious if that's standard practice or if we need to be removing those because it almost feels like it's advertisement.
We could
And-
remove those.
Yeah, it's just a thought, so I wanted your input in what's customary.
I think it can vary.
I personally don't take offense to it. I mean,
Can you manage to get the Yucca Vet Hospital in there somewhere?
I did drive by it tonight on the way in.
Right choice, just kidding.
Realtor of the year, no, just kidding.
See,
Yeah, I mean,
therein lies the problem.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I still don't have a problem with that.
Not.
I tend to think if we sanitize it too much, then it's like we don't have life happening here. I mean, it's tough to take a picture of down the road and blot everything out and say, oh, this is Belen, but we don't really want anybody to know we're here, right? And I think
I think she was just making reference to what was there.
yeah, I think the But at the end of the day, if that's what you want, that's what that lady's gonna do. And I'm not 100% sure that in the woke environment that we live in, that we all don't know that there's a McDonald's over there, and that there's a Yucca veterinarian place, and that we do have a Realtor of the Year on the board. I mean, these are the important things. These are the people that make up the city of Belen. I don't do a lot of business myself personally in the city of Belen, and,
I haven't
you
seen
know.
your dog at the vet clinic.
I'm not talking about that.
Mine either.
People spending money at my business, but, you know, we're big supporters of the city, and I think that it's important to know and to have things in the comprehensive plan that says, hey, these are businesses, these are people. They are employing a lot of folks, and they're driving the economy of Belen.
That was the one thing that was said many times at the meeting the other night, is people like the local feel, they like local restaurants, they like small town ownership, they like the Jim Lardners of the world.
Yeah, that's.
Cut and rock, you know, but that was one thing that's mentioned many times, so.
I agree, Mr. Chairman, completely. But I think we just have to be careful not to add any language that might favor, you know, put one in a special light. That's all I'm saying.
your best.
I think that's what, I think that's what Lodi is talking, Commissioner Silva, excuse me.
I'm sure you're a professional and you'll do your best, we'll accept that.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. I mean, we have done economic development chapters with the signs of the big employers. I didn't do that this time. So,
I don't have a problem with that, but, you know.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
sort of agree with the chairman.
Yes, sir.
I do have something that may stir the pot, but if everyone would agree just to allow her to set her statement and nothing else, so we could get home. If that's okay, I'd like to ask you a question, if we could just get your opinion and leave it at that.
okay.
Ellen. Anyways, for the upcoming thing that we may be discussing as far as, not special use permits, the, what was the word you used?
Conditional use.
Conditional use. Is there any verbiage that you see that may be beneficial in that department as we grow as a city that you see in other places?
We're seeing a lot of cities adding accessory dwellings as a conditional use usually, or an accessory use. It depends on how your code is set up. So the newer codes will have accessory and temporary uses in them, which could have addressed one of your issues tonight as well. So probably the way your code is set up now, a conditional use would be the way to do it. And what was put in the Roswell code was language, they probably did their code amendment on that date in 2010. And so it said that anything before that date was grandfathered in a way that made it permitted. But then there's probably a permit process with that, where they have to come in, they have to show where it is on the site, they have to show they have parking, they have to show their setbacks are gonna be fire safe, that the building is habitable, like you said, or meets, you know, some standard, even if it's not current code. So there are ways to do it, and that just made as a permissive use the ones that were pre-existing. And Albuquerque did something like that several years ago, and people just never came in for the permits, and so it didn't really solve the problem for them. They had a permitting process that they would do administratively. So that's the issue with the permitting process requirement, but you do want to know that they're safe.
Thank you.
Conditional, anything that's conditional has to come before the commission. If you use other language, look at some of the different language, then it can be deferred to staff or whatever, the code enforcement, to be able to make the decision and do the permits on that.
Which you may want to do for the existing ones.
But, I mean, a lot of cities have, am I allowed to say anything?
Well, now the city of Albuquerque allows them by right. They have standards for them, but they allow them by right. New ones.
We got her here.
We've got two states. We've got the state of the existing ones that we have to take care of, and I think it's to do that is in the ordinances. The second state we have is that we have the state of new ones that may want to be built, that we may want to encourage. That's different language completely. and doesn't go back to these others. But I do think we need to clean these others up so that people don't have to come in and do this. And yet that we can find a way to make sure that, you know, they're habitable, I
And
guess.
I don't know, I mean, it's also true that cities will have sort of a stratification of requests where there's some things that have, and you probably do this too, there's administrative approval. And Albuquerque has way expanded what gets administrative approval or public hearing with a staff committee. Then there's things that will stop at you, and so things that the last word is the planning commission, and those don't go to council. And really, the more you can keep at administrative and commission level, it's good, but it's very typical in smaller communities that that almost everything goes to the council. So, you know, different communities do it differently.
Thank you.
Real quick, back on the subject of identifying different companies and things. Typically, you look at your large employers that show the impact they have on the city, and then you identify companies that may show uniqueness to Belen. And like through the flower, something's unique. And so some of those businesses, these are unique to Belen that draw people there. So that's why you bring in the different names.
Realtor of the year.
So before you slip away, Ms. Taylor,
I was just
Let's-
thinking, there's like 15 more slides, so you wouldn't want to listen to them.
I think it's important that we set up a meeting tonight.
Okay.
Yes.
Where we say, you know what, this is where we're at, and this is, so,
So I would suggest the 20th or the 22nd, which I believe are Tuesday or Thursday.
Tuesday or Wednesday,
Thursday.
okay?
Wednesday's not a good night here, because often that's a church activities on Wednesdays. So Tuesdays and Thursdays seem to work pretty well unless you have like football on Thursday or something, and then that's not good.
I'm good the 20th, 21st, or the 22nd, so, of September.
So should we do it the 22nd?
Is that good with everybody here? Whoops.
It's fine with me.
All of our calendars.
September 21st or 22nd?
Is it
It's
22nd?
22nd is a Thursday.
And the 21st is a Wednesday.
Dr. Sanchez, are you good for the 22nd?
That's a Thursday.
I will do my best.
Okay. Mr. Tamita, could we set that up? If you have to advertise it, I think, get it in the next bulletin and,
Take a model after the flyers you did, we can post it on our different media.
okay.
Yeah,
Could we get an ad in the paper?
and I also can do a press release.
That would be great.
And earlier the better, just
And yes, yeah.
drive,
Please,
But
please,
we
I'm
would have
begging
to
you.
do it now because,
yeah.
probably this coming week because it needs a week right ahead.
The other thing, will you be reaching out to the people that previously attended and provided their contact information?
Yes.
Okay.
If they signed in and gave us their email, we'll let them know and we can send them, you know,
A little,
summary of the
yeah.
meeting and everything too.
Wonderful, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Good deal. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you here in a couple of weeks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The audience.
Mr. Tamita, Planning Commission's role in the preparation of the comprehensive plan. Let's have a talk.
Let's keep it short. Oh, please, and add anything if you wish.
Open up to the commission. That was a request of Commissioner Perry that he wanted to discuss what's the
Commissioner,
planning commission's role in the.
Commissioner Perry?
And I think also Phyllis could probably add what typically the role is with the planning commissions on the comprehensive plans in most communities.
Well, the big issue for me is that we need to be, I believe we need to be more involved, especially in the public meetings, not necessarily attending them or being at the head of them, but knowing what they're about, being able to understand what the goal is, what the format is, things like that. Also, it is by law, state law and city ordinance, it is our responsibility to produce this plan. And that doesn't mean that we write it, of course, but I just wanted to make the point that I'm feeling like we're not getting enough feedback on it, on specifics, and it always comes down to like tonight when everybody's tired. You've been a long day, Dr. Sanchez, in a long day. We don't want to go through every word, but yet that's our job. And it's this, is we're gonna lay this on the desk of the city council, and we're either gonna be proud of the work or we're not. Now, I want to say to you, I have complete confidence in you, Site Southwest, to do the best possible job. But I think it's also our job to oversee that and make sure that we're satisfied. And I'm feeling, rightly or wrongly, I'm feeling that most of the communications between you and staff to you, and we don't know what's going on. And so I would just like to say that when we hand this over, that we are satisfied that we were completely involved. And I bring up the schedule again, and the fact that we had 5 days' notice on this public meeting. It's not about legal notice. It's about what you're going to do. Are you going to do your best? Are you going to do your best to get the most people to these things? We had really good engagement. We had people truly engaged in what you did. You did a lot of interesting things there. People were talking, people were writing, a lot of discussion. It was great. It would have been nice to double that number of people, if possible. One notice on the Belen Facebook page and website. How many people go to the city website when they wake up in the morning to see what's going on? Nobody. So this is why I felt that we needed to have this discussion. We need to have some input in saying we need to advertise more, we need to get the word out more, all that kind of stuff. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments from the commission this evening? I had a rather long conversation with Commissioner Perry about this. In 5 days or 10 days or 100 days, sometimes you get the number of people you get, even if it's just an overnight kind of thing. Hey, we're doing this. You never know. But I think it is our responsibility to make sure that we include as many people and do it as as invitingly as we can, to make sure that everyone knows that we're having a meeting and this is what it's all about. I don't know if there's I guess it would probably be a good idea if we could get emails, just kind of having some kind of a highlight or a format of what's being talked about or what have you. Because, Ms. Hutchins, I know that you have that put together, I guess. That's part of the problem that I have is I don't get a City of Belen email.
We requested those in January, February, along with business cards and a page on the city website. None of that has happened yet.
We have a new IT, and we'll hopefully get it done now.
Yeah.
Because the previous ones would post it real quick, and if you didn't activate it immediately, it was gone.
Yeah. And that's, can only speak for myself here, but
I think it was the three of them.
I have 2 emails flying around my world already, and a third one makes it pretty tough. But if we could tie that into my personal one, it would be better. But like I think what Commissioner Perry's after, the goals and the format, and just making sure that people know more than 5 days in advance. I think that's a pretty good thing.
Yes.
Well, I can get Phyllis your emails, and so she can keep you updated with her progress.
Okay.
And she doesn't have to go through the planning staff.
And just one thing I fully agree with everything you said. Just one thing to add to it, and that is that if we're going to be late, let us know first. Let us know first, because, you know, sometimes it's us that's getting the calls from angry people above us. What are you guys doing? So please, if we're gonna have a delay, give us a heads up on that. That would be really appreciated.
It's a good thing, you know, in my business, I have salespeople that call me up and they're like, I need it. And it's like, is somebody on fire? We sell rocks. It's not a big deal. And I understand we've been messing around with this thing for quite a few years. If it takes a couple more months, in my opinion, to get it right, I'm good with it. But it's one of those things that I would love to come to a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and not hear the word comprehensive plan. So hopefully,
Then we need to do it as fast as we can.
hopefully we'll get it done. If you'll get us out of this thing. So, okay. Thank you. Anybody else have anything to say? Look at poor Dr. Sanchez ready to go home. Okay. I don't know if anybody else have anything to say about that? Okay, we'll move on. I don't think time was allowing us to do the fencing ordinance this evening.
That's why I didn't mandate it. If I had
So-
not put that in, you were supposed to hear it.
I
Okay,
had 60 line items I wanted to go over.
we're not doing that this evening, if it's okay with everybody. Communication from the staff, Mr. T.
Does look like Starbucks is coming in, Champion Car Wash. Josh McKern, city manager, and I are working collectively to bring in some pretty substantial, exciting retail, including some breweries and some other aspects that I cannot disclose at this point in time, but it's pretty substantial. And we have the owner of Rancho Cielo coming in this week to talk about some things we're looking at to go, some big stuff to go into Rancho Cielo. So it's getting very exciting, the prospects that is happening in Belen. Very exciting.
Mr. Tomita,
Yeah.
can you kind of give us a rundown for anybody that hasn't been caught up on new additions and support?
Oh, yes, I apologize for that.
Thank
I
you.
apologize for that. I don't know if you've all met Alexis, I believe. And so we've brought Matt in, and Matt is our new planning technician. And he's jumping in feet first here and really coming on board. He's the one that did the changes, went and did a lot of research and did the changes to the fencing ordinance. He's been working on the landscape ordinance. What I like about Matt also is that Matt also is GIS, very knowledgeable experience. In fact, he tutors that. So he's a backup for our GIS, and he's getting his master's degree in project management. So he brings in some of the aspects that, because I plan on leaving in about a year and a half, 2 years at the August. So I'm going to be retiring here. So I've been screaming for many years, bring somebody in so that they can take my place. So
Has he ever been
excited.
formally introduced to the commission?
To the council,
To the commission?
he just was.
You want to stand up there? Yeah. Mr. Ryan, I understand that you wrote the staff reports.
Yes, sir, I did.
Yes, I want to thank you. They were clear, they were concise, they were short, and they were to the point. Thank you. That's a good sign. I want you to know that we look forward to working with you. We wish you success. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that that's true. But I hope that we see more of the kind of writing that we saw from you already.
I appreciate that.
So, and your work on the meeting also. You and I spoke at the meeting too, so. I just wanted to thank you personally for that.
Absolutely.
Very nice.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
And we don't bite regardless of what Mr. Tomita says.
Okay, with that wrapped up, we're going to call it an evening tonight.
Unless Mr. Tomita has
Or
anything
Mr.
else.
Tomita, do you have anything else to say?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Wonderful.
I'll adjourn our meeting at 10 after 8. Thank you very much.